him. George Zimmerman shot and killed Trayvon Martin in late February. He said he shot the teen in self-defense. That is the case. Trayvon Martin did not have a weapon. George Zimmerman is charged with second-degree murder. So what does this all mean for the prosecution and the defense here? I want to talk about this with attorney Janet Johnson. Janet, great to talk to you about this.
Thanks for having me.
So is it just that these witnesses' accounts are changing so much that they're thrown out? If you're representing George Zimmerman here, are you concerned with these statements?
I'm concerned, but I have an effective cross-examination that I would use to say, I'm going to impeach you with your prior testimony. And wasn't that statement the one that you gave closer in time to the events that happened? Isn't that when your memory would have been best?
Right. I'm going to read one of the accounts. Witness number 12, a neighbor in the complex first told an agent that she saw two people on the ground. Again, she wasn't sure who was on top. Then 6 days later, after seeing news reports, she said she believed Zimmerman was on top of Martin. It seems as though what she saw outside of this interview within those few days kind of skewed what she believed. And I always hear through police reports and various police accounts, if you have 5 people that witness a crime, they'll give you 5 different accounts of what they saw here. So how reliable are these witnesses in the outcome of the case?
Well, and I think you hit the nail on the head. She actually said, I learned things on the news that changed my perception of what I saw. That's exactly what you don't want to have happen with witness identification. She said, I learned who was Mr. Zimmerman, who was Mr. Martin, and now I think it was the other way around. That would be a very effective thing to cross-examine. And don't forget, the first time it's going to happen is in front of a judge. He's not going to be swayed by this change in story.
Because of this and all the witnesses changing their stories, Janet, do you believe that this really boils down to the evidence in terms of forensics and not what people allegedly saw that night?
I think they're all going to be factors in the stand your ground motion, which, don't forget, that's the first thing we're going to see. And that's a preponderance of the evidence standard. So it's just, is it 51% likely that Mr. Zimmerman's story is true? The judge is going to hear these things and he's going to say, look, you changed your story. I'm going to believe the first story, probably. That's probably the most reliable. And the forensics say this, and Mr. Zimmerman says this. That's stand your ground, and if he thinks it's more likely than not, he's going to grant it.
So explain this. If the stand your ground motion does hold, does that mean it's over, Zimmerman walks?
Yeah, it's a motion to dismiss. So it means the charges are dismissed, and it means he cannot be sued in civil court, and he's immune from any liability in criminal court. He walks in every court.
Do you think that will happen? I know we cannot predict this, and there's both sides who say, no, this will never hold up, and then another side who says, yes, it does in the state of Florida. What do you think will happen here?
Well, Angela Corey, who I know, she said, don't judge yet. Mr. Zimmerman's statements have not been released, and they're very conflicting. They changed. Well, come to find out, everyone's statements changed. And I'm not sure that's as compelling as she thinks it is. I'm not sure that's her ace in the hole. In the end, I think Judge Lester will probably grant stand your ground. And if he doesn't on appeal, I think it will be reversed if he doesn't.
What do you think of Judge Lester and how he will handle this case long term, even if he doesn't grant stand your ground, if we go through a long trial here?
Well, when we saw the bond reduction motion, and I think a lot of people were surprised, he got a bond on a second-degree murder. $150,000 doesn't even sound like that much. He's his own man. The people I know who practice in front of him say he's very strong, he's independent, he goes by the law, and he's very fair. So he's going to not make any mistakes that show a bias one side or the other. He's going to follow the law, which I generally think helps the defense.
Do you think the outcome of this will change the stand your ground law in Florida on a whole?
Yeah, well, I know Michigan's already reviewing theirs and Florida's reviewing ours. I think stand your ground is going to look like it's an escape route for people to shoot. And if someone dies, what we've seen is it makes the defense's job a little easier, which is not, I think, the way the law should be designed, that if you actually kill somebody, you have a better chance to prove that you stood your ground.
All right, Janet, we know we're going to talk to you throughout this case. Janet Johnson, appreciate it. Thanks.
Thanks.